This is our morning routine with the tube-fed child. I'm woken up to the sound of beeping from his pump letting me know that there's no food left. I turn off his pump. He sleeps a lot better when he's disconnected from his pump, so I do that by closing the white clip and gently twisting the tube that's connected to the pump and the tube connected to his body until they become disconnected. I close the cap of the tube connected to his body. After he's awake, I put him in his chair with his tube still connected to his body. I do this so I can get everything else ready for the rest of his morning routine. I shake and draw up his reflux medication and administer it to him. After he has his reflux medication, he has to wait about 30 minutes before he can eat anything. I use this time to get the supplies ready for changing out his tube. Next, I draw up the water for his tube flush. He prefers it to be warm, so I keep it warm by keeping it close to my body. You can do this by keeping the syringes in your armpit, the back of your knee, and yes ladies, the cleavage. I use the time while the water is warming to clean up his room. I pick up the packaging and the wrappers from the formula, as well as removing the bag and disconnecting the cartridge from the pump. This is also where I have been sleeping while he's in recovery, so I take this time to clean up my bedding as well. I put my bedding on the chair in the corner to get it off the floor. I then pick up all the garbage that I need to throw away and move on to the next step of the routine. Before doing anything with this port, I like to make sure to wash my hands. I do this so I can make sure everything stays nice and clean and to avoid infection. I use a paper towel to dry my hands to make sure that I'm not passing on any bacteria that could be left behind on a normal dish rag. Now it's time for the tube flush. I always keep his head elevated on a pillow while I flush his tube to try to avoid any risk of aspiration. This is the same logic of why we keep his head elevated while he does his continuous feed overnight. After he's in the right position, I start flushing his tube with the warmed water. You can see me taking the syringes out of my shirt, which is where I've kept them warm for the last half hour or so. In between each syringe, it is important to close the white clip to ensure no liquid comes out of the tube. This is a way to lose any kind of water that you are flushing the tube with, as well as stomach contents that are definitely needed. This also can cause air to build up in the tube, which can cause some uncomfortable gas buildup if the air is pushed back into the stomach. I often have to change my son's position to make sure he keeps his head elevated on the pillow. He likes to roll around and squirm while I'm flushing his tube, which can make that a little complicated. Because this is a good source of water for a tube-fed child, it is very important that they get the water needed in the flush. It is important to listen to doctors' recommendations of how much water you need in a flush. I try to give him as much water as he'll let me. Right now, the magic number seems to be about 3 syringes. After I'm done flushing with the water, I gently feed his tube through the hole in his jammies and disconnect the tube. I do this by lining up the black dashes on his tube and on his port. I secure the port with one hand while working to disconnect the tube with the other. I then close the cap on his port. After readjusting his position again, it's time to change his tube pad. You can also use disposable gauze, but we prefer to use the reusable and washable tube pads. Now that everything is done with his tube and with his port, it's time to get him ready for the rest of the day. This involves changing his diaper, which I'm of course not going to show. After removing his Owlette Smart Sock, I get him dressed. Today we don't have anywhere to go, so I think it's going to be a pajama kind of day, so I'll leave him in his jammies. I always choose to let his tummy settle for about 20 to 30 minutes after giving his water flush to not overfill his stomach. If this happens, sometimes it can make his tummy upset and he can get sick. I can use this waiting period to finally get myself ready for the day. This is also the time where I would normally rinse out his tube. But since today is the day of the week when he gets a new tube, I will dispose of the old one and give him his new one tonight when we connect him. The entire morning routine can take an hour or sometimes more depending on how long we have to wait in between each task or anything else we have to get done. Now that he's had his medicine, his room has been picked up, he's been cleaned and dressed, as well as had his tube flush, it is finally time for his bottle and we can go about our day. I hope it was helpful to see what our morning routines are like. Thank you.